Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in WoW, episode number 2. We're on a roll. 2 of 2. Excellent. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I think I'll summarize kind of what I've been doing, obviously, this week, and I'll kind of go for the non-gold making stuff. I know that that's probably not what most of y'all follow me for, so I'll try and be brief, but this is kind of, I do a weekly report for my job where I have to basically report to my boss what I did all the week, and I think that would be fun to kind of do for a wow thing. So that's kind of what this is all about. So I'm going to go over the non-gold stuff and then the gold stuff, and then I'll get to the questions that you guys were so kind as to include in the comments. Thanks so much. Keep those questions coming if you have any. So my week in WoW, Mythic Plus, obviously. Since I've already got the memory that I needed for my current legendary, I will eventually want to get a Stone Legion General's kill for the DPS legendary. But I don't really have the kind of gear that's going to be really great for my Resto Druid quite yet. That's kind of more once everyone's a lot more geared and I don't need as much healing throughput and can worry more about how much DPS I can add to the group. Oh, hello, watch. Let's see here. And let's see here, turn off my watch. Do not disturb. There we go. So right now I'm perfectly happy with my legendary. The next legendary I'll craft. So I made Memory of the Mother Tree. And which, for those of you who don't remember what they are by their names, that's the one that 40% regrow chance that wild growth lets my next rejuve or regrowth apply to multiple people. It's great. I love it. I'm so glad I ended up crafting that one. The other one that a lot of guides tend to recommend is Double Life Bloom, which I believe is called Dark Titan's Lesson. And I opted not to choose that one because I feel like I was spending so much GCDs just trying to get the other hots out that the idea of also having to keep Double Life Bloom up was not something I was looking forward to, particularly because if you don't keep Double Life Bloom up, it's actually a detriment because when you have it equipped, you can put the Life Bloom on 2 targets, but Life Bloom's healing is reduced by 10%. So if you happen to fail to keep Life Bloom up on 2 targets, rather than getting the great benefit you get from photosynthesis, you actually are hurting your healing. And I just do not trust myself to be able to be so good with my GCDs at this point to keep Life Bloom on 2 targets while also dealing with the snap healing that these Mythic Pluses require. So I'm super happy I did Memory of the Mother Tree. But I probably will do the Life Bloom one next, because what I've been noticing in these Mythic Plus is most dungeons perfectly fine, but if I end up with a really heavy ranged group and I'm in a really big area, such as the first boss in Mists of Tir Nassayth, or the last boss of Mists of Tir Nassayth, any boss Tir Nassayth basically, but there's always a hunter who's 60 yards to my right, and then there's a boomkin that's 40 yards to my left, and the spread of the Memory of the Mother Tree is only 20 yards. So I fail to be able to get full usage out of that. So I think that I'm going to craft the Double Life Bloom one and swap to that when I'm in particular instances and comps that I think I won't be able to really make a lot of use of the procs of Mother Tree. So bottom line, though, is I don't need to raid right now. There's no need to raid because I don't need any more memories, and I just don't want to raid. Raiding does not appeal to me, so I've just been doing Mythic Plus. Let me go over to my other monitor here. As of right now, my Raider IO stats is 847. 847 on my Resto Druid. I am missing 3 10s for my title meta. I need Plaguefall. Plaguefall is terrible this week for a Resto Druid because so much of the damage, particularly on the last boss, is from a hard-hitting disease, and Resto Druids can't cleanse diseases. So you need a really good group as far as using their defensives in order to get through that if you don't have good disease cleanses. Or you just need to just pump like crazy with Prideful and Lust. But I tend to find groups that another person will get hit by a tentacle, and then I will panic heal, and then as I'm getting distracted panic healing them, I then get hit by a tentacle, and that's been, what's been befalling my Plaguefall groups for the most part, so I haven't been able to time that on a 10, unfortunately. Necrotic Wake, I missed timing by 6 seconds today. That was fun. That's a whole nother story. But this isn't the Mythic Plus channel, so I won't bore y'all with that. And then I need to do the other side, but I hear that is absolutely toxic on Tyrannical this week, so I don't know. I have a 13 other side key available to me. I think that odds are myself and my friend are going to drop it to a 10 just to get our 10s done this week. I've been kind of doubting myself a little bit. I feel like when I look at my parses, because I do combat logs, and I look at my parses, and like my parses are all orange for dungeons and such, as far as my healing parses. But for whatever reason, like, so my friend and I typically run dungeons together, but we also will just, if one of us isn't available, we'll go do our own dungeons. When I go do my own dungeons, they always go to shit. When she goes and does her own dungeons, I'm not going to say they don't go to shit, but she seems to have really great success. And it is the life of pugging Mythic Plus that sometimes you get amazing groups and sometimes you get shit groups. But since I almost always get shit groups and she tends to pretty regularly get good groups, I began to ask myself, what's wrong with me? And of course, luck of the draw, it could just be that she just happens to get better groups. And also, there's a lot more. So as a healer, there's only so much I can do if people aren't doing mechanics, While she plays a rogue, so she can actually handle a lot of mechanics because she can lock down mobs that are doing bad casts and things like that. Not that healers can't do some great stuff as well, but so she might be running into a point where she has more control over the things that are causing problems for groups. I don't know. But anyways, so I've been really kind of asking myself, what can I do to improve? And I've been trying to figure that out while also trying to be cognizant of the fact that maybe it's not my fault, but maybe it is. So I need to just find ways that I can improve. So that's kind of where my focus has been. But yes, things are going great in Mythic Plus, I would say. I'd say that 847 is good. Fade, the character that everyone calls me Fade for, is a paladin who's still on Alliance, and since you can just do it in the barbershop right now, I actually changed Fade to a dude, but to me, Fade's always going to be like a she, so I'll probably like interchangeably use different pronouns for Fade as a character, but it's all the same character. Anyways, Fade is also 60. Kyrian, I caught up on the Renown. I had to catch up on Torghast. Even with the great nerfs that made it a lot more tolerable to do Torghast, it still became absolutely terrible because I had to do the, let's see, what would that have been? 3 runs to finish up Torghast on my Druid, and then 9 runs to catch Fade up on Torghast, which was rough. Fade doesn't have a legendary yet because I didn't do Cold Heart Interstitia, which is what I need for Fade's Holy Legendary. I would like to do keys on Fade, and I've done a few. I think the highest I've gone has been maybe a 5 or a 6. I think I did a 5, and it was pretty bad because I got in and the tank, it was just like, tell me what to kill, and that means the tank doesn't have a route, and that means it's going to be a rough run. And it was, in fact, a rough run. We did still time it, barely so, after several wipes and some bad bolsters. But, so basically I'm trying to get some keys done on Fade, particularly to at least get some decent choices in my Great Vault. But since I server transferred, I don't really get included in a lot of things on my my old server, which kind of makes me feel left out and sad, so I don't go over there very much, because every time I go over there I say, hey, who wants to do keys? And no one ever answers me, and it kind of stop logging in and asking after a certain point, you know what I mean? But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So that's my Mythic Plus updates. My goals for next week, my goals for the rest of this week, I do want to try and get the 10s done this week. I got a weapon today, which was a huge upgrade, but it's a one-hander off of a really bad staff, so I actually need an offhand. Even if I can just get a 184 out of a Mythic 0, it would be an upgrade because the one-hander is so much better. So I'm going to target the one-hander and necks for gear. I'm going to target getting my 10s as far as score, and that's where I'm at for Mythic Plus. So that's where I'm at. I'm continuing to do the Maw, mission table stuff, good stuff. I was able to, unlock rank 2 of something this week, because I had enough souls as far as my building up of my Covenant Sanctum, and I'd unlocked the Teleporter Network. I did the, which for Night Fae and also involves Marasimus, I believe his name is, something like that. He's a mushroom dude. He has a special rep that you can grind for him. You get a title. I would be a fun guy. But So I did that one, and then I realized I should have done the anima conductor. So I'm kind of kicking myself, but I'll survive. Anima conductor is definitely next week for sure. Let's see here. So that's that. Gold making, what everyone wants to hear. And actually, some of this is going to tie into one of the questions that was asked. So I will probably so first let me talk about Argent Dawn. Argent Dawn, things are going great. Like I said, I was only just gold capped last week. I have, and usually on Argent Dawn, I kind of sit at having around 3 million gold in auctions up at any given time. Right now, I'm still gold capped, and then I made 600K this week, and I also did a lot of investing as well. I probably actually made quite a bit more because, but then I reinvested it. So I am up to like 600K liquid on top of gold cap. But then I also have increased my value of posted auctions from 3 million to 5 million gold. So I'm expecting to see some good gains over the next over the next week there. My goal is to try to get back up to maybe 15 million relatively soon, and then I would feel pretty comfortable. I also have noticed that there's some nice BOEs. On Area 52, the BOEs are the good BOEs, like the highest item level ones you can get, are really expensive because there's a real raid culture there. So people actually want them to do real serious progression raiding. Well, in Argent Dawn, the prices when you see them are actually relatively low because there's not that demand, because people aren't pushing high-end progression content, but since no one's doing high-end progression content, you very rarely see them. So I kind of like the idea of having tons of gold on Argent Dawn still, because something actually did in reverse from Proudmoore last expansion was there was an offhand that just never popped up on Argent Dawn's auction house, but it did pop up on Proudmoore's auction house, and it popped up with like a socket and Twilight Dev, and I think it even had Leech on it. It was amazing. So I actually paid, I think I paid 1 million gold for the offhand, and it was perfect. Like, I knew I wouldn't get another thing of that. I would never replace it for the entire tier, and it was the last tier. So I bought that. So all in all, I think I spent 1.5 million buying it on that one. And then I actually made a character named Delivery Girl. I gave her the offhand, transferred her to Argent Dawn, transferred her to Alliance, because on Proudmoore I'd been Horde. So doing that kind of stuff and having that ability is quite nice. And so that's kind of why I want to keep making a lot of gold on Argent Dawn, even if I don't see a whole lot of use for it, since I'm not maining on Argent Dawn anymore. That said, it's a lot easier to make gold on Argent Dawn as well, I've found. Area 52, like I think I mentioned last week, the sales come incredibly quickly. I could just craft all day and never be able to take a break. However, that was based on my old TSM settings, and that's what one of the questions is about, is how I go about my TSM settings. So I'll talk a little bit more about that once I get to the question section. But bottom line is that the way I'd had my TSM settings set up is my profit thresholds to be willing to craft it was actually quite low. And so let's say on Area 52, if it cost me 9 gold to make something and I could sell it for 10 gold, it would consider it valuable to craft because it's a 10% craft, a 10% profit on the crafting. I don't know if that's how the math works out, but you know what I mean. So it's like, from a percentage basis, things might look valuable, but because the actual numbers we're working in are so low, it's not actually worth the time investment. And I do value my time, believe it or not. Despite the fact that I just sit and play WoW all day. Those holiday life, that quarantine life, you know what I mean? Anyways, the point being, I ended up having to increase my percent crafting. Like, it used to just be flat, I will craft anything that's at least a 10% profit. What I've done is I made a separate profile for Area 52 that now I will craft anything that it has to be at least 10%. It has to be at least a 10% profit, and it has to be at least a 100 gold profit. That way, I don't spend my time dicking around with things that are going to net me 2 gold or 3 gold here or there. So I make significantly fewer items, but when I do make them, they do still sell very quickly, and I'm actually making a good profit. However, this means that I'm just generally selling less. I'm having less overall income. than what I'm accustomed to, while on the flip side, I'm buying lots of augment runes, I'm buying lots of materials to create flasks for my Mythic Plus, so I'm staying gold neutral right now on Area 52, which is perfectly fine. It's like, I can make all my fun money on Argent Dawn, and then just stay gold neutral on Area 52 would be entirely fine. So so that's where I'm at with Area 52 versus Argent Dawn Gold. And Area 50, so for Area 52, I have, I think 1.7 million liquid, and then I think around 300 to, around like 200 to 300K in posted auctions. So that's where I'm at with gold. And yes, so let's move on to the questions. And while I read these questions, I'm going to take a little sip of my drink here before I cough in your ears again. Okay. Questions. We'll go over the order in which I see them. Squish asks, Squish says, I missed you and I'm glad you're back. Been around since the Powered Gold podcast and your own podcast days and your TSM guides that were always helpful to me. I'm glad to hear you sounding so joyful about the game again. 2 million swindles notwithstanding. Okay, so question. I do have a question to ask. What is your approach for TSM crafting operations? For the longest time, I only used TSM for posting auctions, cancel scans, and buying mats. Crafting was another story. I could never wrap my head around crafting operation I could trust, so it's only very recently that I started automating some of my crafting with TSM. I began with Inscription, where I use a simple 200 gold profit crafting operation for my glyphs, but doing some research for crafting operations for other professions has left me so confused with their complexity. Given that crafting is your gold making focus, I'd be interested in your advice. So, as I just sort of mentioned, prior to just a few days ago, I had, particularly with Argent Dawn, I had just had a flat, minimum profit 10% crafting. That is all I had. And then I used the default craft value methods that that TSM ships with, so to speak. That said, I've changed that for Area 52, and the reason that I've changed this, like I intimated there, is that while I was making 10% profit off of the crafting cost at least, that ended up netting me so many items that are technically profitable, but the profit is 2 gold here, 4 gold there, that my time was too valuable to be dicking around with that. So now I have done basically what you've done there, is I have a flat amount of gold of, I know how long it takes me to craft a glyph. I know how long it takes me to craft a piece of jewelry. And it's like, well, how much is that time worth for me? And I kind of just ballparked it. I liked nice round numbers. So like I said, I think I have 100 gold minimum profit. So I have it set as max, the word max, and then parenthesis, open parenthesis, 10% crafting, comma, 100 gold, close parenthesis. And that's what it is on everything. I do still, for glyphs, I do have no minimum cost, because they can be kind of volatile because there's not very many people in the market. So right now, let's pretend Glyph of Stars, which is of course one of the biggest ones in demand, but it's the one that makes your moonkin form just look more like a celestial normal form. And let's say that it costs me 10 gold to craft. And if right now someone is selling them for 11 gold, then I probably wouldn't craft it if I had a crafting cost minimum. However, it doesn't take me that long to do all my glyphs, and if that one person sells out, which they're likely to do, there's rarely other people selling. Granted, Glyph of Stars is a very unique thing, and often more people are selling, but particularly the long research glyphs and things like that, there might not be anyone else. So I will craft them, and I just don't post them unless they're a certain profit. And I will just have my fallback price be very high. And so if that other glyph sells out, then mine's right there to be sold for 4,500 gold, and I get some sales here and there that way. So the glyphs, I believe, are my only thing that does not have a minimum profit. Everything else now is 10% crafting and 100 gold. And that's entirely, there's nothing wrong with not doing the 100 gold. It just comes down to, are you making the amount of gold is this worth the time that you're putting into it? Let's see here. Next question. Oh, I know. Oh no, I may sneeze. So, Xanos asks, do you play Classic? Do you have any commentary on the Classic gold making meta or the possibilities of a probable Classic Burning Crusade launch? I did play Classic briefly. I played a warrior on Bloodsail Buccaneers. I forget what his name is. But I think Kendron. But anyways, I think I got to level 42 or so. I was supposed to go questing in Desolace was where I wanted to quest next. And one day I sat down in Stormwind. And I sat down, I logged in Stormwind, I said, okay, I want to go quest in Desolace, and I realized it was going to take me 45 minutes to get to the point that I wanted to start playing. And I understand that that's a field that a lot of people want from Classic, but that's not how I want to spend my time. Like I just mentioned with crafting operations, I value my time, and sitting on flight paths and waiting for boats is not what I want to do with my gaming time. So I don't play Classic anymore. That said, when I did play Classic, I did obviously get pretty into gold making in what ways I could. The big things that was making me gold back then, and I don't know if it's still viable, is vendor recipes. I have always been a big fan of vendor recipes. In particular for Classic, the first aid books were a big deal. The one that you can buy in Darnassus' Alliance. I don't know where the Horde get them, but you know the and then you can buy bandages in Arathi Highlands, like a bandage recipes, things like that. Were really big sellers. I think I ended up with a few hundred gold, which at my level was not too bad. I still have the gold if I ever log in. I don't know what the gold making meta is for Classic, so I can't. So I do in fact have no commentary on it because I did not know that there was one. Let's see here. Next, let's see here. I think chapters would be nice. Noted. I will probably do chapters for this video, so you've probably seen them. All right, that looks like all of the questions. Thank you guys for asking me things or saying things, and thank you everyone else who just welcomed me back and stuff. So thank you so much. I'm glad that y'all are interested. If you have any other questions, comments, either about Mythic Plus or Gold or whatever else you might want to ask, please let me know, and I will see you guys next time on This Week in WoW.